What's up, everybody? I'm Blessed and Free. Welcome back to another episode of DOC TV. So in the Florida Department of Corrections, the chances of you ending up in confinement if you go to prison are around like 95%. What's that like? In this episode, we're going to get into it. But before we do, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on them post notifications so you can hear it first. So in one of my episodes I did called Fight with a Booty Bandit, I spoke about a fight I had gotten into. This is the confinement time I got because of that fight. It was at this point I really saw just how fucked up the Florida prison system is and how corrupt these officers can be. This is where my living hell started. Now, while getting escorted to confinement, the only thing going through my head was, damn, I hope I get an alright bunkie. The last thing you want in the box is to get a fucked up bunkie. I already knew before the fight that I was going to the box. In prison, it's rare that you're gonna fight and get away with it. Especially one that's in the middle of the dorm like I did. A lot of people always say, hey, tighten up. But that shit don't work for me. Because once I get to that point, I'm not setting a meeting place to come fight you. But I didn't want to end up in confinement with another booty bandit or a snitch, and definitely not some dirty ass cracker. When they popped my confinement door and I saw my bunkie for the first time, the first thing I noticed was, alright, he's a Chico, and this Chico wet up. He had a 5-point crown on his chest, so I knew immediately he was a king. At this point, I was on guard though, because I didn't know dude. And I didn't know if he wanted a bunkie or he planned on trying to get me up out of the cell. After we chopped it up for a couple minutes, I knew it was going to be straight though. He actually came from a good family and had morals and lived by certain codes, and I respected that. Now when you're in confinement, respect is mandatory. You're in such close quarters that you're going to start to notice all the little shit that someone does or doesn't do. Luckily, we were both respectful and we got along all right. Now, I told him what happened with the fight, and he was laughing at me, telling me, man, that dude tries everyone like that. So he was happy to hear I'd beat his ass. Then he was saying, bro, you don't meet too many white boys that are bumping. So I could tell like he already had some respect for me. He was in the box under investigation. The Florida DOC loves to put people in the box for that. Because you can sit for months and they're not going to be investigating shit. When we were both under AC confinement, I really thought I'd beat the DR because all the staff at Gulf CI were related, and I beat up a dude for gunning down a woman officer, so I automatically thought like they would respect my mind. But that's not how it went. I was waiting for like almost a month before I went to DR court because the box was full and a couple riots happened, so everything was on the compound was moving slow. At some point, the dude I fought got brought into confinement and my bunkie started talking shit through him through the door. That was the reason I thought when we got out of the box that we were going to have to bump again. As far as what confinement is like, it's complete hell. The shit I saw in there was unbelievable. It was like a world within a world. The living conditions were disgusting. And the amount of time people spend back there on DC confinement is just fucking crazy. That's part of the reason that people get out of prison and go right back, because the prison system is literally creating animals. And on top of that, the officers play some fucked up mind games with you when you're back there. You get to shower 3 times a week and you have one set of clothes. You shower on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And don't count on those days though, because half the time the officers are gonna buck you on the showers. It was December when I was back there, and I was all the way up in the panhandle, so it was freezing. They don't turn on the heat, and when you piss them off, they'll actually turn on the exhaust fan to bring the air from the outside back into the dorm. Even when you do get to shower, by the time the hot water hits your face, the officer's already in the mop closet being a dickhead and cutting the water heater off. So now you're standing there with cold ass water, using a piece of soap the size of a quarter. If you've never been to confinement in the Florida Department of Corrections, it's probably hard for you to fathom this reality. You have to experience it to really grasp it and understand it. But I don't wish that on anyone. When you're in your cell, the only way to talk to inmates is through the air vent above the toilet. You can hear the cell above, below, and to the left and right of you. So every morning when the nurse hands out medications, all the gunners are in the vent talking to each other. And they'll be like, oh, she's an eater, dog. Oh, she finna eat it up. She loved the dick. And as she's handing out the medications, they're standing on the door, looking out their little window and gunning her down. If certain officers were working confinement, they would yell, get off the fucking door, because they knew what the inmates were getting ready to do. The officers hate gunners. If you went to the box at Gulf CI for gunning, you were getting tortured. They had caught a couple of them on the door with the nurse, so when she was finished, the captain came back in the dorm screaming, y'all want to gun my white woman? Get on the door. Get on the door now. And I say it like that because that's exactly how he sounded. And that sound will never leave my head. He would scream that until someone would say something. And then he would have the other officers figure out who said something. And they would go to the door and tell that inmate to cuff up. But most wouldn't, because they knew if they did, they would just pop the door, come in, and beat the shit out of them while they had the handcuffs on. They would do this shit to bait inmates. So that way when they bucked, they actually had a reason to give them an ass whooping. They're supposed to give you a direct order and have another officer videoing it with the camera. So what they would do is turn the camera on and say the inmate refused this and that, when really, they didn't even say anything. Then they'd shut the camera off and spray them with mace. Take a 15-minute break and let the mace do its thing. Then spray the inmate again. I was in the cell, wrapping my face with my shirt, listening to the inmate scream for his mama, because that mace in there is no joke. After seeing stuff like that, it just made me sick to my stomach. The way the officers abuse their power is insane. Half the officers belong in prison more than the fucking inmates do. In my cell, I would look out the crack in the door and see the officer's desk, and I could literally watch him sit there and read people's mail. And if he didn't like you, he would throw your outgoing mail in the trash. The same sergeant that worked the night shift happened to hate the booty bandit that I had fought. So in the morning for breakfast, he opened the food flap to give us our trays and said, hey, you the white boy that beat up dirt? I like your style. And he would give me 2 trays after that. Now, it didn't happen every morning, but he did a bunch of times. And I'm not going to lie, that shit came in clutch, because when you're in the box, you are literally starving. That's what makes it so crazy, because 1 minute they're beating inmates and the next they're giving me 2 trays. Then you have the new cock officers. When the officers would escort us to the shower, they would flip our cell. We would have to hide our books in the mattress because you're not allowed to have reading material in the box unless it's from the chaplain. They would take our pictures of our family and our friends and then throw them on the ground and walk all over them. And depending on which officer did the search, they would find our books and take those too. Then we'd have to hustle to get the orderly to bring us new books. But even through all that shit going on, I tried to make the best of a bad situation. What really helped me pass the time in confinement was reading. I really got into books in confinement. But because we would get our books taken by the officers, we had to read them slow, because one book would have to last us like 10 days. And that's hard to do when you're into a good book. I would literally picture the book in my head like I was watching a movie, but I was just reading it, really. I don't know what I would have done without books in there. That's pretty much all you can do. I mean, you can work out, but I didn't, because you only get one uniform. And like I said before, the food they feed you in there is complete trash. I lost 15 pounds in the box and it was winter, if that gives you guys an idea. That tells you right there that what they were feeding us was complete shit. On the nutritional side, just to give you an idea of what they actually feed you, they give you enough food to feed a 135-pound resting man. I'm 225, so that didn't work out too well. Me and my bunkie used to eat water burgers. That's when you got to go to the sink and start drinking water just to kill those hunger pains. My damn back was eating my backbone. But it is what it is, you know. I stayed strong. I kept pushing forward. That's your only choice that you have, is just to keep pushing forward. When I was halfway into my confinement bid, there was some kites being passed around in my bunkie. Apparently people were saying he had checked in. He told me that he didn't, and he said he was taking Xanax on the compound and wilding out, and his brothers were hating on him. Like I said, he came from a good family and he had money, and he always kept his box full, and he was selling dope on the compound. So he said his brothers dropped a kite on him because they wanted to get him from around there. Now, I don't know if that's 100% true, but it did make sense, because any prison you go to and you get money and are making moves, you're always going to have some secret haters in the background. It don't matter if you're affiliated or not. Sometimes your own brothers will do you in. Another example on why I never joined up with any organizations. I'm not saying everyone's like that. You got some gangsters in there, but you also got some wanksters. Loyalty and respect goes both ways. If they don't return it, then they don't deserve it. And with that, it's DOC TV, and I'm out.